You eat, you scroll, you binge watch, you buy, you're full. But are you fed? We live in a world where hunger rarely looks like starvation. It looks like restlessness, endless snacking, late-night scrolling. Another drink, another episode, another sale. Our fridges are full, our calendars packed, our feeds constantly updated. But deep down, there's a gnawing sensation, a subtle ache, like something essential is missing. And we can't name it. We chase the next thing to fill it. But whatever we consume never seems to hit the spot. Not for long. Why? Because we've confused saturation with satisfaction. And that's the core of our problem. We think more is the answer. More food, more noise, more choices, more control. But fullness isn't the same as fulfillment. You can be overloaded and still feel empty. You can scroll for hours and still feel unseen. You can eat until you're sick and still crave something real. In truth, many of us aren't hungry for calories. We're hungry for meaning, for depth, for connection, for quiet. But we live in a culture designed to keep us distracted, not nourished, entertained, not enriched, stimulated, but never truly satisfied. And when the silence creeps in, when there's no screen or snack to shield us, we panic. We reach for something, anything, to fill the space. But maybe that space isn't a problem. Maybe it's an invitation to stop numbing, to listen, to feel. Because the illusion of fullness is easy to sell. Real nourishment? That takes courage. We often think our habits are harmless. The extra scroll, the snack we didn't need, the conversation we avoid. But underneath them lies something deeper. Not craving, but avoidance. We don't always chase pleasure because it brings joy. Sometimes we chase it to escape ourselves. Carl Jung called it the shadow, the hidden self we bury beneath routines, performance, noise. It's not evil. It's simply the part of us we've exiled. Unprocessed pain, repressed fears, unmet needs. And pleasure? It becomes the mask, a way to keep the shadow out of view. We laugh, scroll, indulge, not because we feel whole, but because we fear what stillness might reveal. We say, "I deserve this," when what we mean is, "I don't want to feel that." The problem isn't the chocolate, the show, the message. It's why we reach for them. Not from presence, but from tension. Not from joy, but from anxiety. In avoiding discomfort, we train ourselves to fear honesty. But the shadow doesn't vanish when ignored. It grows quieter, yes, but also heavier. And over time, we forget how to tell the difference between joy and relief, between what uplifts us and what simply numbs. Real clarity begins not by rejecting pleasure, but by asking, what am I avoiding? Because behind every mindless indulgence is a story waiting to be heard. And only when we stop running can we hear it. Look around, there's a celebration happening. Not of truth, not of presence, but of escape. We live in the golden age of distraction. Everything is faster, louder, smoother, easier. Need comfort? Open an app. Feel lonely? Swipe, anxious. Click, bored, scroll. We are drowning in stimulation. And yet, we feel empty. Because this isn't pleasure. It's anesthesia. And the worst part? We've learned to call it living. We throw parties to avoid silence. We binge on images, voices, sounds, not because they bring depth, but because they keep the ache at bay. We laugh without joy. We share without intimacy. We consume without hunger. And every escape leaves us slightly more detached from ourselves. But no one tells you that, because modern culture rewards avoidance. You're tired? Drink coffee. You're sad? Watch something funny. You're overwhelmed? Buy something. You're numb? Do more. The system thrives when you don't pause, when you mistake stimulation for satisfaction, when you confuse being busy with being alive. But beneath all the noise, there's a quiet truth. Most of us aren't choosing pleasure. We're choosing relief from being with ourselves. And it's not because we're weak, but because we were never taught how to stay. As children, we were soothed with screens, sugar, distractions. Not taught how to sit with emotion. Not told it was okay to feel uncomfortable. So we grew up thinking escape is normal, that if we're not entertained, something's wrong. But discomfort isn't a problem. It's a message. It's our system saying something needs attention. And every time we mute that voice, we bury ourselves just a little more. We lose contact with the subtle signals, real hunger, real joy, real connection. They get drowned in a sea of notifications. It's not that pleasure is the enemy. It's that when we use it to escape, we teach ourselves to fear reality. And over time, that fear shapes our lives. We avoid hard conversations. We delay decisions. We reject stillness. Until everything we do is just a distraction from what we're not willing to face. So ask yourself, when was the last time you felt joy without a screen? Peace without needing music? Connection without a filter? The truth is, real life isn't a highlight reel. It's often slow, quiet, imperfect. But that's where meaning lives. Not in the next hit of dopamine, but in the spaces we're usually too quick to fill. To reclaim presence, we don't need more willpower. We need more honesty. Start by noticing. Not judging, just noticing. The scroll that follows a hard day, the snack that masks a sense of emptiness, the urge to check your phone when you feel alone in a room. These are the doorways, not into shame, but into understanding. Because once you see the escape, you can begin to stay. And staying, that's where everything begins to shift. Silence. We think of it as peace. But for many, it's punishment. Sit in a quiet room. No music, no screen, no one speaking your name. And suddenly, everything you've buried starts to speak. The thoughts you avoid, the feelings you postponed, the questions you never wanted answers to. This is why silence is so rare, because in silence, there's no escape, only reflection. And most of us aren't ready to meet what we find there. We say we want peace, but we've trained our nervous system to fear stillness, to panic when things slow down, to fill every second, every space, every breath. Because when it's quiet, the mask slips, and underneath, we find, what? Anxiety, loneliness, grief, or worse, nothing at all. A void, and that's terrifying. So we keep the music on in the shower. We check our phones between tasks. We fall asleep to background noise, not because we like it, but because we've forgotten how to be with ourselves. We weren't taught how to sit with discomfort. We were taught to solve it. Silence, then, feels like a problem, something to fix. But here's the paradox. Everything you're searching for, clarity, peace, self-trust, lives inside the quiet. Not the forced silence of isolation, but the chosen silence of presence. Because silence isn't the absence of life, it's where life reveals itself. Carl Jung wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And you can't become yourself if you never pause long enough to hear your soul speak. But there is a cost. Silence asks for honesty. It shows you where you're out of alignment. It reveals the friendships that drain you, the goals that aren't really yours, the habits that are numbing, not nurturing. And if you're not ready to change, silence will hurt. It will feel like loss. Because you will grieve the version of yourself that was built on avoidance. But if you stay, if you breathe through the discomfort, silence becomes a mirror. And in that mirror, you remember who you are. Not the curated version, not the busy one, not the reactive one, the real one, the child who once dreamed before performance, the soul that once played before productivity, the mind that once wandered without guilt. And that memory, faint as it may be, is the beginning of homecoming. But you won't find it in the noise, only in the stillness. So the question is simple. Will you sit? Not to escape, but to return. Because silence, once feared, can become sacred. But only if you let it speak. There's a moment that comes after awakening. A strange, hollow stillness. The cravings lose their power. The rush no longer rushes. And you're left, in between. No longer asleep, but not yet whole. This is the quiet after the noise fades, where you stop chasing, but haven't yet learned how to be. And it can feel like something is missing. You thought healing would be peaceful. Instead, it feels flavorless, like food with no salt, like a song on mute. This is what most people aren't ready for. Freedom, real freedom, often feels like loss at first. Because you're not just giving up distraction, you're letting go of a whole identity. The one who used pleasure to cope. The one who measured worth by constant doing. The one who needed stimulation to feel alive. And now, here you are, present, clear, but a little disoriented. Because no one told you how much noise shaped your sense of self. No one warned you that silence could feel unfamiliar, that peace might feel like boredom, until you learn to recognize it as rest. You wake up and don't check your phone. You eat without multitasking. You sit in a room with nothing to fix, prove, or chase. And your nervous system whispers, "This isn't right." Because for so long, chaos felt like home. But this is the detox, the in-between, the gray space where the old comforts no longer soothe and the new joys haven't fully arrived. It's the withdrawal from identity, not from substances, but from roles you didn't know you were playing. And it's here, in this unflavored freedom, that many turn back. Because emptiness is misunderstood. It's not the absence of life. It's the space where new life begins. But it takes time. Time to rebuild your sense of aliveness from the inside. Time to learn how to savor again. But slowly, deliberately, without urgency. To discover joy that isn't loud. To feel pleasure that isn't addictive. To sit in stillness and feel not restless, but safe. This is the turning point. Where the old loops try to reclaim you. Where the old voice says, "Come back. Just a little. Just one hit. You've earned it." And you have. But you've also earned something deeper. The ability to choose. Because now you can see the craving for what it is. Not hunger, but memory. A memory of how you used to cope. How you used to hide. How you used to survive. And you don't need it anymore. Freedom without flavor is not emptiness. It's purity. It's your body and mind resetting. It's your soul getting quiet enough to be heard. So if it feels dull, don't panic. Don't fill it. Let it breathe. Because slowly, almost imperceptibly, new colors return. New textures emerge. And one day, you smile. Not because of a notification, a treat, or applause, but because you're here. Fully. And that is the most delicious freedom of all. You've arrived. Not at the end, but at the beginning of something real. You've felt the high. You've tasted the crash. You've sat in the silence and made it through the storm of your own mind. And now, you stand before a door. Not locked, not hidden, just waiting. This is the moment most people miss because it looks too ordinary to be sacred. No lightning bolt, no dramatic collapse. Just a quiet question. Will you keep choosing yourself, even when it's not easy? Because healing isn't a one-time epiphany. It's a choice. Repeated, refined, returned to. Not because you're broken, but because you're becoming. You see, the world won't stop offering the old comforts. The scroll will still tempt. The sugar will still soothe. The noise will still numb. And some days, you'll want to go back, because the new way is slower, quieter, less glamorous, but also deeper, more honest, more yours. This is the sacred choice: to feel instead of flee, to stay instead of distract, to move forward even when nostalgia calls you back. It won't look like much from the outside. You'll skip a party. You'll sit with your sadness instead of stuffing it. You'll listen to someone without checking your phone. Small things, invisible to others, but enormous to your soul. Because this is where power lives now. Not in control, not in perfection, but in presence. Carl Jung once wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." But now you see it. The pattern, the pull, the price. And because you see it, you can choose differently. You can choose the kind of joy that doesn't leave a hangover, the kind of love that doesn't come with performance, the kind of success that doesn't cost your peace. You can build a life that doesn't just look good, but feels like home. But no one will give it to you. There's no app for this, no shortcut, no algorithm, only awareness, only honesty, only you. So pause, breathe, listen, and when the craving returns, because it will, don't shame it. Just ask, what am I truly needing right now? That question won't make you perfect. It won't erase the ache, but it will make you sovereign. Because the difference between addiction and intention is not intensity. It's awareness. And now you have it. So walk through the door. Not as someone who's finally healed, but as someone who's finally awake. Not chasing, not hiding, just choosing again and again to come home. To yourself. That is the sacred choice. And it is always yours. Thank you for watching this video till the end. If you found it interesting, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new content. To dive deeper into the topic, be sure to check out our previous videos. Links are in the description. Share your thoughts in the comments, and see you in the next video.